Hey everyone, Dave here with another Blu-ray DVD collection update / haul video. This is the second one for the period between September and October 2022. As I said in the previous video, I've got so many discs coming in at the moment that I'm going to have to produce more videos than usual over these next couple of weeks. It is the end of September while I am filming these, but these will trickle into October because I've got so many of these to release. In this video right here, we're going to be taking a look at the 22nd wave from Imprint Films. This is the most recent wave from September 2022. There's a whole bunch of titles to take a look at, so let's get into it. Okay, so as I said in this video, we're going to be covering the 22nd wave of Imprint Films. That is the September wave from 2022. I previously did a video of the 21st wave only a few days ago. I uploaded that one. I wanted to be nice and up to date. Usually I'm quite a bit behind on these, so I want to be nice and up to date with these for you. But in this video, yeah, we're going to be taking a look at the 22nd wave. I'm going to have a whole bunch of videos out this month. As I said, it's at least 5, I think 4 or 5 I'm going to be putting up. I'm going to be covering everything from Umbrella, Random Space Media, Via Vision, Plumeria Pictures, which is a brand new brand that I'm going to take a look at. Random Space Media, did I say Random Space Media? Kicks.com.au, also a bunch of personal pickups as well. So over the next, couple of weeks, I'm going to be rolling out these videos. I hope you all watch them and enjoy them. But in this video, we have got a great little wave here from Imprint that we're going to be taking a look at. So let's get straight into it. Firstly is Akira Kurosawa's Academy Award-winning masterpiece, Dersu Uzala. Dersu Uzala is the enthralling tale of an eccentric Mongolian frontiersman who is taken on as a guide by a Soviet surveying crew. While the soldiers at first perceived Dersu as a naive and comical relic of an uncivilized age, he quickly proves himself otherwise, with displays of ingenuity and bravery unmatched by any member of the inexperienced mapping team, on more than one occasion becoming their unlikely savior. An amazing true story based on the memoir by Russian explorer Vladimir Arsenyev. This set comes with a couple of new bonus features, including an audio commentary by Japanese film expert Stuart Galbraith IV, a new video essay by Michael Brook mapping Kurosawa, A History of Dersu Uzala, and one by music historian David Schechter on the score. It's also accompanied by a bunch of archival featurettes, including a short documentary, archival footage of the real Vladimir Arsenyev, and some interview pieces. It does have an optional English dub and subtitles, but I always recommend foreign films in their original language. So we are finally getting some more Akira Kurosawa on the Australian market on Blu-ray. It has been a long time coming, getting Kurosawa works on the Australian market. For some reason, particularly all of his classics have never been released on Blu-ray here. They're available overseas. I, in fact, bought the box set from the UK. It was released under BFI, I think. Beautiful box set, which has, The Hidden Fortress and The Seven Samurai and Throne of Blood and all of those great Kurosawa classics. Gorgeous movies, long awaited on Blu-ray in Australia. I don't know what anyone's waiting for. But anyway, it's great to get a little bit more. This is only the third Kurosawa film that's ever been released on Blu-ray. Again, none of those absolute classics. Ran, again, it is a classic, but it's not part of those ones that you would think of when you think Kurosawa. Ran and Kagemusha is the other one that has been put out. And finally, we've got another one. But I'm not complaining. Any Kurosawa into my collection is great. He's one of the masters of cinema. His films are so influential. He's got a terrific style. Dersu Uzala is one that I'd never actually heard of before. It's strangely enough, this is technically a Russian film. It's based on a Russian novel. Kurosawa was apparently a big fan of Russian literature when he was growing up, and this is a story he wanted to adapt for his whole life, but struggled to figure out how he could adapt it or change it into a Japanese story with Japanese characters. Of course, focuses on Russian characters. He couldn't find a way to crack the story. Many years later, he was actually contacted by the Russian embassy who wanted him to make a film for Russian audiences. And he had the greatest idea, which was this one right here, Dersu Uzala. One of those, I guess, kismet moments in the history of film, and he was finally able to make this movie. He was unable to get funding from the Japanese film boards for this movie because it wasn't a Japanese story, and apparently there were only 6 Japanese crew and cast members involved in this movie. This is a film from the USSR. In fact, when this movie won Best International Features at the Oscars, it was entered as a film from the Soviet Union. So this is a very, very, very odd piece for Akira Kurosawa. But it is a really wonderful movie. And I wish I'd heard of this earlier, but I'm glad that I finally got my hands on it and been able to check it out. And it is a really beautiful piece. It's what you would expect from a Kurosawa work. Really, really beautiful character work, really great characters, very, very deep storytelling. The way the characters interact with each other is terrific. But moreover than anything else, the visual language of a Kurosawa film is always beautiful. This has been shot gorgeously. It took him 2 years to film this in the Russian wilderness. Just insane stuff. And he's got some of the most gorgeous landscapes on film, the way he frames things, and he uses smoke in a lot of his movies as well. So a lot of scenes where you've got this really beautiful billowing smoke, and even the colors that come out of this movie that is set upon a very deserted, snowy backdrop really look great. This is not a terrific transfer. It does feel a little bit soft. It is very, very grainy. The grain feels very heavy, but again, I do feel like this probably goes back to the elements, particularly as this was shot on location entirely on 70mm film. I feel like that probably has something to play with the original elements and how this visually looks. I would have liked it to look a little bit crisper, a little bit sharper, but still pulls up looking really nice, and this is a really decent entry into the Imprint Films range. If you've never seen a Kurosawa film before and you want to get into Kurosawa's works, I feel like this would be a bit of a strange entry point, but at that is still a wonderful movie, and it still gives you, again, his visual language, the way he makes a film is always very, very similar, and this is absolutely, most certainly a Kurosawa film, just on the visual language and the character work alone. And I think, yeah, it's definitely one that is worth watching. Next up is The Road Home. When his father dies, Liu Yasheng returns from the city to his childhood village where his father was the much revered local teacher. But what begins as a short trip to bury his father becomes much more when he learns his mother wants a traditional burial for her beloved husband. She wants to have him carried by foot, honouring the belief that a body returned this way will never forget the road home. As Yusheng enlists the men needed to fulfill her wishes, the story of his parents' love affair unfolds. Though this edition marks the film's first Blu-ray release worldwide, it unfortunately does not come complemented by any bonus features. Imprint does it again. They have got another Zhang Yimou film out on Blu-ray, and I am so happy. Of course, last year, Imprint released a spectacular box set featuring a number of movies directed by Zhang Yimou and starring the spectacular Gung Li. I absolutely love that box set. I think that is probably my favorite piece of anything that Imprint have released. I had never seen the films of Zhang Yimou before this box set, and his films just opened my eye to a whole new area of cinema that I had never seen before. Of course, I had dabbled in Chinese cinema before, usually the wuxia films, the kind of martial arts, fantasy kind of movies, but never really in this kind of more dramatic area of Chinese cinema, and I just love his works. So I'm very happy to get another one here with The Road Home. This one, of course, doesn't star Gung Li, but it does have a really terrific cast, and this movie is just so in style with everything else that I have seen from his works. It is such a beautiful story. His movies are all so beautiful and so touching, and they're also simplistic. That's what I love about his movies. They're so simple, and most of them are pretty short, have pretty short run times, but feel like slow burning, slow boiling epics with this really gorgeous heart to them, really beautiful human stories, very intimate filmmaking, and this is no exception. This is one of his most beautiful movies. Transfer on this is beautiful as well. Really gorgeous looking film. Again, shot in China. Really fantastic landscapes, and takes place over various times, over many years, various times you get to see all these different seasons, and it is just so beautiful. I couldn't recommend this movie enough. And if you can still get your hands on the Zhang Yimou and Gung Li box set, I would highly recommend that one as well. It is still available. I don't believe it's gone out of print just yet, but I'll definitely jump on that one whenever you can. Maybe wait for a JB Hi-Fi sale or something like that and pick it up. Gorgeous box set. I think it's just some of the most beautiful cinema ever made, and I think this is a really great companion piece to that box set right there. So if you own that, you're gonna want to get this one too. Just stunning stuff. Next up, we have got Blue Chips, starring Nick Nolte and Shaquille O'Neal. Championship-winning coach Pete Bell runs the cleanest program in collegiate basketball, but when he finds himself on the brink of his first losing season, Bell decides he must make a risky trade to protect his job, under-the-table dollars for talent. Betraying his conscience and the trust of his ex-wife, Bell signs the nation's Blue Chips. Now Bell has the best team money can buy, but is he prepared to pay the price? Directed by William Friedkin of The Exorcist and Sorcerer, this acclaimed film is considered one of the best sports films ever made, giving an honest inside look into the competitive world of college basketball. This release includes a bunch of brand new bonus features, including a new audio commentary by film critic Bilge Ebiri, new interviews with editor Bob Lambert and director of photography Tom Priestley Jr., as well as an interview with sports journalist Ben Strauss. It also includes a theatrical trailer. I love a really good sports film, but somehow Blue Chips managed to escape me all of these years. It's a movie that I've never really watched, never really heard about, maybe in passing before, but as the synopsis there says, this is considered the greatest sports film of all time. I wouldn't agree with that. I would say it's probably up there as being, you know, a very, very good sports film. I wouldn't say it's the best of all time, but it does come during an era where there were so many really, really good sports films coming out. This is the middle 90s, but you know, you think of films like Field of Dreams, it was 1989, but you know, kind of in that same era. You've got The Rookie, you have got Any Given Sunday, Jerry Maguire, all of these movies kind of coming out around the same time. I feel like it kind of fits in really, thematically, stylistically, with these kind of sports movies. If you haven't seen it, I think knowing those movies, particularly maybe Any Given Sunday and Jerry Maguire, gives you a good idea of what to expect with this. But it's not just a sports movie, it is a really great, like, psychotic thriller. This is a movie which has high tension the entire way through. You are on the edge of your seat. You don't know what's going to happen. Nick Nolte plays this. He's a terrific performance, one of his best ever. He is just this guy that can snap at the flick of a button, and the dirty things that he does to try and make this team win, try to make this team the best team that can possibly be, is just astounding, and he just delivers a great performance. Shaquille O'Neal is great in here too, of course. You know, he would have been pretty early into his career, and it's kind of like that Michael Jordan thing in Space Jam. You throw a basketball player into a movie, you're not going to expect them to be the best actor ever. There's a few basketball players in this movie, but Shaquille O'Neal is the most high-profile one now anyway. So he's in there, he does his thing, he's a decent, you know, he does a decent performance, but he's not an actor, he's a basketball player. But yeah, this is a really fun movie. I came for a fun sports film and did not expect this kind of high-boiling dramatic thriller. Really, really cool. If you love these kinds of movies, I would highly recommend this one. Transfer on this one is decent. It's like your standard run-of-the-mill kind of catalog release on Blu-ray. It looks like something the studio would have maybe pumped out 20 years ago. The transfer was, of course, handled by Paramount Studios, I assume anyway, and yeah, just kind of your run-of-the-mill standard catalog title on Blu-ray. Don't expect anything great about it, but it's not terrible either. This is an interesting omission in the imprint line. I think on the surface it kind of feels a little bit odd. It feels like one that maybe could have been put out on a standard release, but I guess it does have a big cult following. And again, being considered one of the best, I'll call it one of the best sports films ever made, I think it does find itself just sitting in this collection very, very nicely. But yeah, definitely check this one out. Next up is Lolita, a forbidden love, an unthinkable attraction, the ultimate price. Respectable schoolteacher Humbert Hubert, played by Jeremy Irons, marries his landlady Charlotte Hayes, Melanie Griffith, so that he can get closer to her young daughter Lolita, with whom he is madly in love. His unfulfilled desire for the girl brings him to the edge of insanity and threatens to destroy the object of his obsession. Fatal Attraction director Adrian Lyne courts controversy again with this adaptation of Vladimir Nabokov's infamous novel. This set comes with a number of new bonus features, including an audio commentary by film critic Josh Nelson, a new interview with cinematographer Howard Atherton, and a video essay by author-critic Kat Ellinger called The Seduction of Humbert Hubert, Adrian Lyne's American Beauty Lolita. It also includes a number of archival bonus features, including a casting session with Jeremy Irons and Dominique Swain, and an on-the-set vintage featurette. Alright, this is another one of them that's very, very difficult to talk about. It is a very, if you know anything about Lolita, the description there, the synopsis there, doesn't really, that really skirts the lines of what this film's about. I didn't enjoy this movie. It's very, very confronting. It's very confronting. There's a lot of very questionable stuff in this movie that I was not comfortable at all watching. I was not comfortable watching this movie at all. I get that that is the intent, that is the artistic intent of director Lin here, but it's still not something that I really particularly enjoyed watching. And again, there's a lot of very, very questionable things in here, and you kind of wonder, how did they get away with this? How did they get away with making this movie? It is a very controversial film. In fact, the film has been made twice. It was, at least twice. I'm not aware of any other versions, but there might be. The original version was, of course, directed by Stanley Kubrick in the early 1960s. I think that version of the story is much better. It handles the subject matter much better. It puts a much better kind of lens on the story. It is more kind of on the nose, satirical, black comedy kind of take on the story. A lot of it is inferred, not much of it is explicit. But this film right here is certainly very explicit in many ways. It's certainly explicit in its themes. It shows a lot more than the Kubrick version shows, whereas the Kubrick version really skirts around everything, but does it in such a great way. And I'm not a huge Kubrick fan. I'm someone who enjoyed a few of the Kubrick films I've watched. I've really disliked many others that I've watched. I absolutely adore The Shining. It's one of my favourite movies of all time, but I wouldn't consider myself a Kubrick fan. But this is one case where I would say, yeah, the Kubrick version was much better and so good. If you want to see this story on film, check out the Kubrick version. It's terrific, and James Mason's performance in that movie is wonderful. So there's this really great, quirky, wry, kind of black satirical performance. Just so good. This one right here, Jeremy Irons delivers a great performance. Everyone in here delivers great performances. But the way I think the story is told is just too confronting for my liking. And I feel like it does border on exploitation and not the fun kind of like 1970s exploitation movie kind of thing. This is like just like pure exploitative film. And again, I get that that's the artistic point of this, but it wasn't for me. I didn't enjoy it, and it's a movie I couldn't recommend. The transfer here is nice. Again, it's another one of those kind of stock standard studio Blu-ray HD, back catalogue releases. Don't expect anything too spectacular about it, but it's not the worst thing you'll ever see either. Next up is Harem. A young American woman, Natasha Kinski, is kidnapped by an Arabian sheik, Ben Kingsley, and held captive in his harem. At first, she tries to escape, but as they get to know and appreciate each other, the difference between captor and captive dissolves. This set comes with a couple of brand new bonus features, including a new audio commentary by author Scott Harrison and a new video essay by author and critic Kat Allinger, The Lost Girl, the 70s and 80s cinema of Natasha Kinski. It also comes bundled with a German teaser trailer. Harem comes to us in a brand new 2K scan. It's very rare that an imprint release actually specifies how the scan was done, how new it was, anything. This is a brand new scan of the film. It's the first time the movie's been released on Blu-ray. That usually means this is probably going to pop up on the international market at some point down the line. But anyway, it is here. It's exclusive to Australia for now. So the movie looks really great. It is a really nice, beautiful presentation. This was shot in gorgeous locations in Morocco, mainly, and it just pulls up looking very good. Why do I start off with my thoughts on the transfer? It's because this movie's not good. This is a real dud of a film. It's very, very boring. I did not enjoy this, really. And it's one of those weird movies that it just almost feels like a series of vignettes instead of like a proper narrative, in that it's just so kind of all over the place that it's really easy to kind of lose what's going on, or just kind of, it feels like everything's so disconnected. Ben Kingsley, Natasha Linsky, they both deliver really, really great performances here, but the movie just kind of fails them, it faults them. It's also very problematic in the themes, again, of, I guess, sort of like Stockholm Syndrome stuff, the prisoner falling in love with, the captor, and it's just done in a very kind of odd, oddly romanticized way that I feel like it's just a very odd movie. Didn't love it, but I do know that this one has like a huge cult following, and that's why, again, it fits very well into the Imprint range right here. It's not one that I could highly recommend because I didn't really love the movie, but I know it does have a decent fan base out there. There's a lot of people who are gonna want to get their hands on this one, and if it does sound like something you're interested in, you know, go ahead and grab a copy of it. And finally, we have got Barfly, starring Mickey Rooney, Faye Dunaway, Alice Krige, and Frank Stallone. Henry Chinaski is a talented writer of prolific prose. Unfortunately, he's also a skid row alcoholic with a violent temper. He picks fights nightly with Eddie, the bartender at the local watering hole, the Golden Horn, and lives in a seedy tenement, stealing food and trying to scrape together enough money for booze. Fellow alcoholic Willa Wilcox catches Henry's eye at the bar one afternoon, and although she has a reputation for being unstable, the two embark on a relationship with each other and the bottle. Barfly offers insight into the world of the alcoholic, where all that matters is the next drink. The film is complemented by a bunch of brand new bonus features, including a new audio commentary by Kim Cooper and Richard Shave of Esoteric Tours, Los Angeles Historians and Preservations, new interviews with Alice Krige, Frank Stallone, Eva Gardos, and production designer Bob Ziembicki. It also includes the vintage featurette, I Drink, I Gamble, I Write, the making of Barfly. Barfly is also complemented by a second disc, the Bukowski tapes. When Barbet Schroeder began working on the movie Barfly, he had no idea that it would be such a struggle. During the 7 years it took him to complete the film, he turned his cameras on its screenwriter, poet and novelist Charles Bukowski. Bukowski, legendary for his drunken excess and frank observations on life, love and survival, took no exceptions with Schroeder. Schroeder eventually completed the Charles Bukowski tapes, a 4-hour-long study of the man and the music of his words. As all of Imprint's spectacular box sets, this one comes housed in a hard box with the movie and the Bukowski tapes on 2 separate Amaray cases. We've got another Mickey Rourke cult classic hitting Blu-ray. This is a very, very long sought after movie. It is a movie that is beloved by a lot of people. Again, huge cult following this one. Of course, we had Rumblefish hit Blu-ray not that long ago from Umbrella Entertainment. So these are like the two kind of key Mickey Rourke cult classics from the 1980s. Angel Heart is great. Oh, I love Angel Heart. That was released actually not that long ago as well. But I've been wanting to see this for so long. This is a movie that actually has never been released in the US on Blu-ray. It's not been released in the UK on Blu-ray. I think it had a couple of releases in Germany and has in fact had 2 prior releases in Australia from Shock Entertainment. One was like 6 years ago and the other was like 12 years ago. So we're getting our 3rd release before the US even gets one, which is mad. And this one is in this beautiful box set right here. I missed out on the 2 Shock releases of this, so really, really happy to finally get my hands on the movie finally, and in such a beautiful box set. Finally get a chance to check out the movie. Unfortunately though, I didn't really love it. I think Mickey Rooney is a great performer, and I think his performances from this era particularly are really, really great. But it's just not a movie that I really, cared much for. I feel like a lot of these cult films from the 1980s are movies that for some reason I never end up really loving. Movies like The Goonies or The Lost Boys, even Rumblefish. These are all movies that I just couldn't find a connection with. I don't know why. Don't know why it is. I grew up, I was born in the early 90s, so most of what I grew up watching were films from either the 90s or the 1980s. So I love a lot of films from the 80s, but there's just something about like these cult branded movies from the era that just never land with me. And maybe it's because I come to it too late in life. I mean, I do understand Barfly is an adult film compared to like maybe The Lost Boys or The Goonies, which you can probably enjoy like a little bit younger. But I just never connect with these. And this is a movie that I just found to be quite boring, quite frankly, quite honestly. There is some good stuff in here. I love the sequences between Mickey Rooney and Faye Dunaway. They have like this really great chemistry. Mickey Rooney and Frank Stallone have this really awesome kind of comedic chemistry as well. Their fight sequences are so fun, but much of it is just too drab for my liking and too kind of depressing and really uninteresting for me. It's not something that I can connect with on a personal level. Of course, not having gone through these kind of personal troubles myself, not really having known anyone who has. So I don't feel like I have like a huge, you know, connection to much in this movie. Unfortunately, I just didn't love it. But I do really understand why this has such a huge cult following and why people love this movie so deeply, and I would recommend picking this up. Again, this is not a new transfer. This is the same one that's probably been peddled over the last 12 years or so. So it looks like, again, I think the running theme with this wave here is just like standard back catalogue studio release. But look, yeah, if you love this movie, I'd highly recommend this box set. But for anyone else jumping in as a blind buy, I would say maybe jump in with caution. It's definitely worth watching for Mickey Rourke's performance. I just had this really horrible feeling that I've maybe said Mickey Rooney once or twice in this video. If I have, I apologize. But yeah, I think it's worth watching for Mickey Rourke himself. But just jump in, particularly at like the $70, $80 price point. Just like maybe consider, you know, have a second think about it if you haven't seen this movie. And at that brings us to the end of the 22nd wave of Imprint films. I will be covering the next wave in probably, I guess, about a month's time. Of course, they won't arrive until the end of October, I don't think, so it'll be a little while until I get a chance to cover those one off in a video, but I will have a bunch of other videos coming soon. I've just put up my video of the 21st Imprint wave, which you can check out right now, but over the coming days, weeks, I'll also be putting out videos covering Umbrella, Random Face Media, kicks.com.au, some personal pickups, some stuff from a new brand that I'd never heard of who reached out to me called Plumeria Pictures. They've sent me over some great stuff, so I'll be covering them as well. Lots of great stuff to come up over the coming weeks, again, or month or so. So I hope I'll see you in the next one. Until then, guys, take it easy.